And thank you again. As Diane told you, I am a Rotarian in Caldwell, but the work that I've been doing with the center has nothing to do with our Rotary Club, although as you can see I have a lot of support from our club. They are two separate entities. And it was because of my work in Liberia that I was actually asked to be a Rotarian, because someone said, you are a Rotarian, you just don't know it yet. So thank you for having me today. I brought some photographs with me today, and I'm using them not to really show my experience, but to help tell a story. And it's a story of, as Diane told you and Pamela talked to you about, an incredibly devastating civil war in which 270,000 plus people were killed. Over 1.5 million people were displaced. More than 3/4 of the women of Liberia were sexually assaulted, mutilated, or enslaved. Where children as young as 9 years old were conscripted into the army, either as soldiers or as wives of soldiers. A country who's new to peace and new to hope, and a country that is transcending their circumstances through the help of one another and hopefully friends around the world to help them rebuild their lives. It's also the story of two remarkable cousins, Fatimata Sukuna and Patience Blayato. Diane told you I learned about this through a colleague at IBM, Fatimata Sukuna. Her family had some means to send her to the United States, where she went to high school and graduated with a master's degree from Emory University and went to work for IBM. Her first cousin, who was raised by the same grandmother when they were children, stayed in Liberia, left only to go as part of the Women's Peace Initiative to Sierra Leone, lost her father, lost her brother, lost friends, and lost her life as part of the war. The two of them put their quite brilliant heads together and said, we need to do something to make a difference. What is it that we can do? And they brought their skills to the table and founded this organization. The woman that you see here made this beautiful dress for me. This is Dorothy Brown. Dorothy is the trainer of the tailoring class at the Center for Women and Children Empowerment. And I wanted to just share this. She made the dress she's wearing as well. Dorothy is one example of what building occupational skills can do. Dorothy didn't sew. She had children she couldn't support. And she learned at the center sewing skills, and now she teaches sewing to other women so that they can improve their lives. I'm just going to give you a quick snapshot of Liberia a year ago. These are just my photographs. More than 60% of the buildings were bombed out in downtown Monrovia, and the government has granted basically squatting rights to people to be able to live in these burned out buildings until they're reclaimed. So you see families living in the city in these conditions. These people are cooking up here. You can't really see that clearly, but they're cooking. There's no potable water in the country. People go to wells to be able to get water for washing and cleaning. It's often carried to homes where it can be, or with people bring buckets and their clothing and they do wash at a community well, like the one that you see here. Liberia is one of the 5th poorest countries in the world. It is over 68% of its people live in dire poverty. There is 82% unemployment because the schools were decimated and all of the professionals left Liberia during the war. There was 14 years of no school. So in a country where you have a population where the average lifespan is 45 years old, more than half of the population has spent more time at war than they did in school. This is the neighborhood where the executive director, Patience, lives, and this is a community shower that the community built, and behind it, with the cement blocks, is a bathroom. There's no means of cooking gas, so all through the countryside you see smoke, black smoke, because people are, you see this? People are burning wood to make charcoal and burying it underground. And then you see children and women mostly bagging up coal and charcoal and selling it so that people can cook. And cooking is either done over an open fire, you see fires burning all in the countryside, or in more enclosed areas of the suburbs, there's usually something like this where people are using as a community stove. Garbage is everywhere in the city, and sadly, this picture is not a once-in-a-lifetime shot. All over the place you see children, women, people of all ages digging through garbage looking for food. I actually took a course in food security at NYU this past semester and did a study on Liberia, and the food, it's one of the most food insecure countries in the world. There is a poverty reduction strategy that many organizations and governments have bonded together to do, but right now 1 in 4 children dies, and 44% of those children die from malnutrition. The studies have shown that there is a direct correlation between literacy, skills, the ability to provide for a family, and the ability to solve the problem of malnutrition. This is just a quick peek outside. In the city, you'll see gas stations outside of the city. This is a gas station. Those are jars of gas, and they put them into the cars with a hose. And just like with the education system being devastated, so is the healthcare system. One hospital, the John F. Kennedy Hospital, stood standing. There were very few healthcare professionals that actually remained in the country. So most people rely on what's called country medicine. My friend, Pastor William Dean, lost his father this year from appendicitis because he couldn't get treated beyond country medicine, and that was a very preventable death. So while I painted this picture of devastation, the biggest thing that I learned in my time in Liberia, that there is this transcendent spirit of hope. Despite the crime, despite the violence that still goes on, there is this spirit of people believing that Liberia will rise again, and individuals reaching out hands to help one another up. Father, forgive them, you see this painted everywhere. The other thing is, everyone you meet has a story. The waiter in my hotel, he was using his tips and he started a school because there were no schools for the small children. The man who worked at the front desk, he actually chose to work nights because during the day he worked with an organization to go into the slums and risk his life to get children that had been in the war out and try to help repatriate these soldiers and get them into counseling to help get past the devastation of the war. And the same is true with the Center for Women and Children Empowerment. Patients in Fanamana, when they founded this, they believe wholeheartedly that it's not through the sporadic application of aid that you're going to solve problems, but it's helping women restore their dignity through counseling and through providing them with a way to build skills that they can not only feel good about, but use to help them support their family. In the first 2 years, every woman that was in the center had been selling herself in order to feed her children. And that may sound like, oh my, how could they do that? But if your child is going to die, you don't have a choice. You're going to sell what you can. So they founded the center, and they have a basic literacy program, and they have several skills programs. They teach small business training to help people start their own businesses. And they have 4 children's resource centers. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about them. 726 people have graduated from the programs. 78% of those people are gainfully employed because of relationships that they've made with employers throughout the country, Monrovia, Greater Monrovia specifically, or have started their own businesses and are now able to help their families. This is Dorothy's sewing class in their first day. First week, actually, they're learning some basic stitches. They also have a tie and dye class where they're actually making beautiful patterned fabrics that can be sold. There's a hairdressing class where they teach all kinds of hairdressing, and they've even had some really tough clients come in and they've been able to get through that. There's a catering and pastry course People are taught not only cooking for larger scale and baking that they could sell on their own, but there are relationships with the Mamba Point Hotel and some of the other places where they sell food that women can now go and work. I'm sorry? Oh, can you see? Am I in your way? I'm sorry.
No.
There's also, the Mamba Point Hotel had a big need for hospitality workers because this was one of the 2 standing hotels that people that come into the country are staying at. And so they worked with the center, with Guatemala and patients to develop a hospitality curriculum. And that had to start with basic hygiene and etiquette. And then now they have many graduates actually that are working at the hotel, which is wonderful. Again, this is baking, an oven, and some of the delicious shortbread that they make as a result of that. The food was wonderful. Believe it or not, the center is running with no electricity on a powered generator, a computer lab. They formed a partnership with Microsoft as an unlimited potential partner, and they're teaching basic computer skills. Now, even in the university in Monrovia, the one university, there are no computers. People that have gone there have learned the theory of computers, but have never been hands-on a computer. The president, Madam Sirleaf, has actually had a call to action to try to gain skills so that she doesn't have to go outside of the country and can use her own people in country to help work in some of the government's agencies. So they have found, as you see men in the class as well, I was accused a little bit of being a female chauvinist in the back because this was the Center for Women and Children Empowerment. Men are included in the program in the past 2 years because men have to be part of the problem, have to be part of the solution. They are a continued part of the problem, and that all of the violence and domestic counseling, etc., that's done there, men are participating in these counseling and education programs as well, and that's incredibly important. This is a radio station in Monrovia where they have a radio program called Achievers Next, and Achievers Next is reaching out to those who are really in despair and showing them that there's another way, and using it as a way to help people know there's a different way. Take it to some of the neighborhoods where they have their children's resource centers. There are 4 in different neighborhoods, and every Saturday they gather school children. This is Patience, but can you see? Oh, you can't see her. She's cut off. I'll show you in another picture. They gather children and they teach them basic reading and writing. Most of these children are not in school. They teach them good moral values. They teach them hygiene. They have spelling bee competitions and sports competitions to help try to teach them leadership. And the most remarkable thing that I saw them do, and I'll pass this around, is they actually took the 54 articles of the Geneva Convention and synthesized it down to right and responsibility. And they go around and they have community programs, and they teach the children, the community, they go to the schools and talk to the teachers. And in here, as you look at it, you'll see things. I'll read this. Right, my government must protect me from being carried to another country unlawfully. Trafficking is still a huge issue. And duty, I have a duty to honor the government. Right, I do not abuse me sexually, either through rape, prostitution, or in any manner. Duty, I must say no until marriage to sex, and I must dress modestly. And so the children that are in school take this with them and go to school, and they give programs for their classes. So it helps build awareness about what some of the issues are. The biggest problem is that these children are so vulnerable, not only because they're not in school, but because there is so much violence. And so the trainers, like this gentleman, Joseph, has to be someone that they know. It has to be someone that has personal references, that has not been involved in the war in any capacity, and has been, everything is very, very carefully monitored. The biggest problem that Joseph and Mikey Boyd, another trainer, told me is that it's hard to get children to concentrate on their program because most of them have not eaten that day. And it's a very difficult thing for them to be able to afford to feed these children that are coming from the community. So now a couple of the graduates. This woman is working in a non-governmental organization. She learned her computer skills. She was so proud to show me her memos and her newsletter that she had done. And on her breaks and her lunch break, she spends them in the children's room with her computer, teaching children how to use the computer. This woman here in the brown is Annie. Annie was one of those first-year students that I told you about. And she got her pastry and catering degree. And then she started selling baked goods out of her home, and she saved up enough money to open this store. And she sells baked goods. She was able to buy her own stove, which is still done on coal. You'll see it up on the slots. And she has a room in the back where she hosts weddings. And because she hosts weddings and she bakes wedding cakes, she's able to hire other women from the community to help her when she has an event. Everything grows. This young girl is Edna. Now it's important to remember that sub-Saharan Africa has one of the highest teenage pregnancy rates in the world. 68% of the girls between the ages of 15 and 19 become pregnant. And that is sometimes through their own volition and often not. And we talked about the mortality rate of those children that are brought into the world under those circumstances. Edna, by contrast, was a student at the center, and she had never gone to school because there was no school for her to go to. She's one of 5 children. She was also in baking, and she said every day I would get up before dark, I would make what I learned how to make in school the week before, and I would sell it on the way to school. She works 12 days a week at this 12 hours a day, 7 days a week at this shop. And I heard that and I thought, oh my gosh, that's exploitation. But I talked to Edna and I realized that was opportunity for her. And what she does is she gives money to her family, and then she's been saving money to open her own business. And at that time, she had saved, I think it was $75 towards the $400 that she needed to go ahead and open that business. We have since formed a relationship with a microlender to help be able to give small business loans to women like Edna to start their own businesses more readily. This is Helen, tough as nails. Learned hairdressing, opened her Blessing Beauty Salon, and got such a good business going that she hired these 3 women. One of them is a graduate from the center. The other 2, Helen trains herself how to do hair. So again, it's actually exponential in what happens. Edith and Esther, what you can't see are the foot pedals for the sewing machine or the hot coals that the iron are sitting on, because again, there's no electricity. But they're both seamstresses trained by Dorothy, who made my dress, and both are doing beautiful work in another partner company that has hired regularly graduates until they're able to earn enough money to go off on their own and start their own businesses. And I'm going to leave you with Hawa. I have Hawa's picture on my desk. This woman is an incredible inspiration to me. Hawa has 11 children, one every year since she was 15 years old. She went to the center and took the tailoring course, and she soon realized that she couldn't hand sew fast enough to be able to make money, and she could not afford a sewing machine. So she went back and learned the catering piece of it. Every morning she gets up before dark and she starts her baking as the sun rises, and she works until just before sunset when she takes the money she made to buy her flour for the next day, and she puts the rest to support her family. On her bucket, she had her friend write for her. It says, "No food for the lazy." I'm sorry. When Hawa told me about this, she said, "My dream is to be able to read and write. And they keep asking me at the center to come and take the literacy classes, but I can't figure out how to do that because I work every day, and I have to work every day, and I can't change that." We had a very long talk, and at the end, she put her arms around me and she said, "Thank you for helping the women of Liberia." And I carry that with me always, and that's why I'm trying to build this awareness. The center, there are ways that you can help. This is a 501c3. I'll be straight. We depend upon donations to run the center. All of the money, this isn't an administrative cost that there will be a lot of things going to administrative, everything goes right to pay rent, security, the small stipend that the staff gets, and the things that they need to run the programs. Any type of awareness that you can help build about the situation in Liberia and the very small nonprofits like this, I would be more than happy to provide you with any kinds of information that you could share with your churches, places of worship, any other organizations that you might belong to. You know, anybody that is interested in becoming a partner in an advisory capacity, if you have a particular skill that might be beneficial to the center. There are a lot of people that have actually donated. I have a friend whose mother was a literacy teacher in the Bronx who helped them improve their literacy curriculum. So there are lots of ways that you can help.